Shut up and sit down.
Alright guys, I'm Dodge, this is Bigmeks Workshop and Paint Studio, and this week we are doing the Howling Griffons because someone requested it on our Bantam & Brushes video, and we are working our way through a bunch of sub-chapters of Space Marines off the Space Marine chapter poster, just because we've got loads of Marines kicking around, and this has been started with, well, this model has been started with a prime of Israeli sand. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add scale 75's peanut butter over that. Really watered down, nice and thin there, almost as a wash, and it's going to immediately go over that Israeli sand and come up really vibrant straight off the bat, so that's a good start. Next we're going to use Games Workshop's Evil Sunz SCARLET for the other sections. So the quartering, that's what people are going to struggle with this, and it can be a bit fiddly. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically leaving a little bit of that Israeli sand down the middle, and the reason that we've left the Israeli sand on there is because it's also a prime. We can easily draw straight over the top of everything else with it and get that colour back. So if your red goes over your yellow goes over your red, now is the time to neaten it up. As you can see, I went slightly to one side with that colour, so slap some Israeli sand on there to straighten it back out, which enables you, it's going to enable you to go back and forth here and straighten things out. And when it comes to the backpack, just follow the vent and do the very middle. And you should be able to, over time, just go back over with those two base colours, but make sure you've got it all nice and straight before you do this step. What we're going to do is we're going to try and tie the two colours together when it comes to shading and highlights as well. So we're going to add an Agrax Earthshade wash on now. This is watered down, don't want to be too strong, although it could have gone on a bit stronger for more contrast. It's really up to you, but I think I did just two thin layers of that, and that's the red and the yellow sections getting done there. Before we get too settled into the video, yes, it's a plug by one of our local game shops, Composite Games. They offer 15 to 25% off. The website address is in the description, and if you follow that link and use the code Bigmeksarmy on checkout, you get an extra 5% off, so that's 25% off all your hobby supplies. Go check them out, and you can also buy our products on that shop as well. Just keep the plug short and sweet. Go check those out, and let's get straight back into the video. Now, probably should have done this in the other order, thinking about it, but I was just winging it, making it up as I go along. So I'm using Scale 75's Mayhem Red, which is sort of a dark burgundy red, and I'm just going to paint the shades in, which is, as you can see, why I thought afterwards I should have probably done that first, then done the Agrax. As you can see, painting the shading in here really does work. It's a lot easier than painting the highlights a lot of the times, because you can keep it thin and almost use it as a wash. But when it comes to the yellow, we've already put the Agrax Earthshade on, so what we're going to do now is use Model Air Medium Yellow, and we're going to start bringing that colour up. I do hope this shows up well enough for you on camera. It was very difficult to adjust the camera to pick up the highlights for the reds and the yellows. It definitely looks a lot better to my eye, as I can see it better. And this, again, we've gone to Evil Sunz SCARLET, and hopefully you can start to see the colours being brought up there, but as a whole it's very difficult for me to get that camera adjusted just right so it picks up everything. But we're just going to start doing the highlights over where we had Evil Sunz SCARLET before. Not quite as much, but obviously there's a layer underneath that of Agrax and Evil Sunz SCARLET, so you should start to see the shades there and the highlights. Next, we're going to bring it up even further with Model Colour Vermillion. And as you can see, all I'm doing is painting a little less of the area and then a little less of the area till we get the highlights bright enough and where we want them. It is a bit of a challenge, this model, to be honest. If you're doing a whole army, good luck. It's going to be really tedious, but it will look amazing when it's done. So now we're going to use Games Workshop's Flash GITZ Yellow and start highlighting those yellows. And this combination of yellows, I'd not done this before in this way, and I was quite happy with the result, to be honest. I can see myself using it for something else. Now I'm going to start picking out some of the metal parts. It's also going to give the canvas something else to focus on. We're going to use Model Air Metallic Gunmetal. And that's from almost every single metallic. Keeping it simple, as the model will look striking anyway with the quarters on there. And also the Aquila will be going in that colour as well. Now I'm going to use Scale 75's Tindalos Red. One of the sort of reddish, dark reddish brown for the satchels and things. Although it is a little bit bright, but we're going to put a wash on that in a bit and tone it down, because obviously we've got quite a lot of red on there already, so we want something to contrast. So the darker we can make it, the better. Now we're going to use a thin wash of Games Workshop's Null Oil, and we're going to use this for the satchels and for the metallics. As the Tindalos Red was quite dark, but not quite dark enough in my opinion. And of course, if you're looking at this model thinking it's still not sharp enough, it's going to get a pin wash. We always do a pin wash at the end, so if you look at our tutorials and you think to yourself, well, there's not enough depth or shading in that, don't worry, by the end of it, it will look really striking. The pin wash does most of the work for us, because it's just easier that way. Next, we're going to start highlighting those metallics with Model Air Metallic Steel. It's nice and simple. Most of the Aquila, it's just an overbrush. You could probably go up a few steps higher if you wanted on this, but I'm trying to keep these videos as short as possible. Keep them at a length, so if you're doing an entire army, then you can get them done nice and quick. Now the edge highlighting on this, very bizarrely, the edge highlighting on the whole of the model there is Scale 75's Sky Grey. I'll get back to that in a sec, because currently we are painting Tindalos Red by Scale 75, adding in a little bit of Brown Grey by Scale 75, and we're using that to start bringing up the edges of the satchels. Then we're just going to use the Brown Grey on its own as the edge highlight. So I used the Sky Grey on the entire model, and bizarrely, you do have to keep the edges really, really neat for this one, but it does sharpen the model a lot, and because it's such a thin line against such bright colours, you don't see that it's grey. It also doesn't look white, so it's not too overpowering. So I kind of like that technique, and I've done it on both sides. Now we are using Scale 75's Victorian Brass. For any of the other metallic parts, he's got some decorative stuff on his left wrist, and there's the metallic bit on his gun holster, so decided to put some different metallic colours in there just to help break the model up. You could do these with an airbrush, I suppose, if you wanted to. Probably would do if I was doing an army of them, but it's really hard to get that centre line, so remember the Israeli sand's really good for fixing that. Next we're going to use model colour German Grey instead of just leaving the guns black. One of the reasons for this is, instead of just having the straight black, that colour is going to add a different colour to the black, but also look black, which is going to contrast against those bright reds and yellows. As you can see, it's got a slightly bluish grey hint to it, but it also, as you can see there, dries nice and dark. So now we're going to use Games Workshop's Dawnstone and just straight edge highlight that. One of the reasons was it was getting close to the end of Friday, and I wanted to get this video finished. And like I was saying before, I don't want to go into too much depth. These are just supposed to be quick little videos that we're saving on our YouTube to release when we need a quick video to release. And there'll be a bunch more of these coming out as well. We've got a whole heap of chapters coming out. Now we're going to use Scale 75's Amber Alchemy and start highlighting the metallic parts on that holster, and obviously on his wrist as well. So I'm hoping there's enough different varieties of colours on here, so if you did your entire Indominus box with this, you'd have a good idea of what colours to use on what parts. Next, I'm going to pick out the purity seal on the back. I'm going to use XV88 for that, which is a sort of a orangish brown set to the bone. Didn't stand out as much as I would have liked. I'm also going to use it for the handles and the straps on the handles for the weapons, just to break those up, because obviously you couldn't use a red, which is what people would usually use. Next up, we're going to use Games Workshop's REKLAND Flesh Shade, and I'm going to put that all over those metallic parts. Well, all the goldish bronze metallic parts anyway. That's just going to help give them a little bit more colour, and obviously a little bit more shade in the recesses and at the bottom. I think I also used a REKLAND Flesh Shade on the Purity Seal. Then I'm going to use ZANDRI Dust to pick that up. Could have gone a lot higher with it. Didn't really deem it necessary. You've seen me do Purity Seals and lots of other things. Maybe I should have gone with a slightly more white Purity Seal, just to make it stand out a little bit more against those yellows. The other reason I use Scale 75 as the highlight is you don't want to edge highlight any of this with any orange hue, because it looks like you've messed up, because the brain knows that orange and yellow, red and yellow make orange. So you want to avoid using anything that looks like an orange highlight. Now we're going to use Scale 75's Moonstone Alchemy as the final highlight for the brass and gold metal parts. And I do know those edges, they look a bit messy, but once the pin wash is on, it will look a lot neater. It is really difficult and quite tedious to do those edge highlights, but trust me, it does work. It looks in person really, really nice, especially over those yellows, not so much over the reds, because I did 2 edge highlights over those and then I corrected it with the sky grey. And there we have it. Once that pin wash is on, boom, the whole model starts to pop, and the eyes were just done in random greens, just any greens you like. I think it went up to moot green, just to bring a little bit of brightness to it, but I didn't do a great job on the eyes. And he's only blue tacked to that base there temporarily, as they just are temporary display bases for this, as we'll be stripping this model and stick him in the Salamander's army as well. So I would like to see an entire army like this of our Space Marines. I mean, I think they look bloody amazing. If you had a whole army of this, it would look very impressive, but it's very time consuming. So we've reached the end of the videos. I do hope you like that one. I'm trying to keep them nice and short, so I'm going to say thanks for watching, guys. And obviously I wouldn't be able to do this Space Marine series without our patrons, as they help pay for the Indominus boxer. So big thank you to the Alt Boys, Matt, Ludwig Hofbauer, D-Wack, Mark, Dave, Tom, Spiky Dude, Warren and Ben. You are our top paying patrons. You guys make these videos possible. We love you guys. Thanks a lot for the support. If you guys want to help support the channel as well, you can jump down in the links. Any donation is more than welcome. It definitely helps out. I guess that's all from us. I shall catch you in the next video, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe and share with your friends, because it helps us out a heap.